Yeah. So we're just going to focus on a common data environment structure, which will be the BIM 360 docs interface. We'll work on RFIs, submittals, checklists, inspections, snagging. There may be an element of BCAR. We'll now be using BIM 360 build. We'll be focusing on laser scanning and drones. There'll be also going through clash detection from laser scanning. We're just explaining a bit on that. And then we'll go on to equipment management using QR coding for FM, and that'll be BIM 360 field interface. And we just kind of go on the way to push information back from site to meet COBie requirements. And then we just do a recap on the entire session. So I'll just pass on to Jonathan, who's going to focus on, I'll start on the common data environment. So what we have here is, I'll put it across here. So we have BIM 360 docs, which on the home page we have all the information. So what we have is, we can go to our document management side. So at this stage of the project, we have all our site staff invited onto the project, along with the design team, all the commercial executives of the project. So this is only going to just be given permissions to this folder here, which will be the published folder. I'll just expand it a bit here. So by adding, say, engineers, so you can start adding your project engineer. We start adding the plumbing engineer, and all these contractors are added to this platform. So anyone who has been added to the project will get access to that folder. They won't have access to any of the work in progress or any of the kind of approval documentation that has gone in the background before it has hit site. So as soon as they've been given permission to this, anytime a model is added to that project, they will get a notification and it will reside in there. Similarly, all the files that have been approved for construction throughout the phase of all this coordination and collaboration and all of the clash detection review, they'll all reside in here. So with the exact way that it has gone through beforehand, you can open up our files and you can start reviewing all the drawings. You can review the drawings, CAD files, PDFs, Revit models. If there's a Navisworks file on the project, it can be viewed on this interface. And as mentioned before in the previous webinar, you can start doing the compare function as well on this. You can start doing markups even for yourself, just to kind of relay information back for as-built information. What we will do then is we will focus more on we focus more on this towards the end of the webinar, because Jonathan is going to start going on with site snagging, BCAR, and gathering information from there. So what I'll do is I'll pass on to Jonathan here to kind of show the BCAR element of it. So I'll just make
Thank you, Sean. Perfect. You can see my screen there.
I can, Jonathan, yeah.
Brilliant. So yeah, I'm just going to go through a couple of slides first about BIM 360 build, and then I'll do a bit of a quick demo just to show you around the modules and sort of the back end of it as well, and how you might control some of the approval workflows as well. So yeah, this is going to focus just on BIM 360 build. Within BIM 360, we have covered the other elements of BIM 360 in the previous webinar. So we've looked at docs as Sean has showed, and just to see that docs just does sit all the way across all of the BIM 360 modules as well. So whatever files you have stored in here, you can access them regardless of which build, glue or design you're using. So this is your CDE, as Sean has showed. And yeah, we previously showed design and glue, but today I'm just going to focus on build, and I'm going to look at the two main modules within that, which is field management. So this allows you to do checklists, so whether it's for commission, inspections, BCAR and the likes, and then also being able to raise issues either against checklists or just for snagging or any sort of safety issues you might find on site, or any sort of issue whatsoever that you can then assign people as well. And then the project management side of things as well, where you're able to submit RFIs from a subcontractor or main contractor point of view, and also looking at submittals as well. So specification documents to get signed off by the architect, or either the subcontractor submits them to the contractor and they get signed off by the architect and back to the contractor. So just looking at some of those workflows there as well. So kind of breaking down BIM 360 Build into a lot more of what you can do, as I mentioned, RFIs, submittals, issue management, but you can also pull daily reports as well. So see which contractor or where the most issues are assigned to on a particular job or particular project, you know, helping you analyze where there might be a pinch point on a project for any particular reason, and you can then go analyze that information and see why so many issues are occurring with a single contractor, or why so many issues are occurring on a certain location of the site or the project as well. And then also you can create checklists. Either you can upload from an Excel template as well, but you can also create custom templates to be able to use either for BCAR or site inspection as well, or just from a quality point of view as well. So looking at some of the submittal workflows, you're able to create submittals and then assign these to individuals. So basically within a submittal package, you'll have a list of items, either, you know, requesting information or submitting information, technical information regarding finishes or materials or particular equipment that the contractor has maybe submitted to be requested to be used within the project as well, and there's an approval process to go with that as well. Other features, logging RFIs as well from a contractor point of view, and this shot shows an example using a 3D model, being able to log an RFI, clicking on that curtain walling there, but this can also be done on 2D drawings or just by using photographs as well, and being able to assign that to individuals as well. And then you can manage any sort of issues that might be created on site, whether it's at a snagging stage or whether it's within a checklist. You're completing a checklist on site, either the architect or engineer or the contractor are completing one of these checklists on you know, either an iPad or a mobile phone, and they come across an issue, so they're able to log that as well, take a photograph of it, and then assign that issue to somebody as well, so that it gets resolved, you know, and then that enables them to close out the checklist. Particularly looking at a BCAR point of view, you know, this really manages that whole chain of events and looks at every individual or every company that's part of that, and there's a complete tracking process as well, and you can export all of that information, you know, to save at a later date as well, or to review at a later date. And you can create custom checklists for almost anything, whether it's just for the installation of a piece of equipment, whether it's just for you know, quality of finishes, reviewing pointing or plaster work, or even just the installation of ironmongery, or even if there's any damage as well. You can create custom checklists as well. I'll go into a bit more of that within the demo as well. And then obviously you can access all of this information on an iPad or on an iPhone as well, and you can also use you know, Android and iPhone as well, by the way, and you know, the guys on site can use these to complete their checklists as well, whether it's a contractor, whether it's your site manager, or whether it's the architect or engineer on site as well. They're able to use all of these devices, and this all feeds back into your BIM 360 in the cloud, and can be retrieved, you know, within a web browser as well. Okay, so I'm just going to jump into a bit of a demo, and then I'll jump back and carry on to a few more slides afterwards. I'm going to look at Recap Pro and Navisworks as well, and how they might feed into the construction side of things. So I'm just going to jump into BIM 360 here. So within BIM 360 we have our modules here, and we've looked at previous modules. I've disabled them for now, design, collaboration, model coordination, just to get them out of the way. But I'm just going to start looking at the project management module. So I've logged in here into my project, the Monarch PCC, and I've got my project set up here, and I've got all my members and people assigned to it. So I'm just going to jump into this particular module, and then afterwards I'm going to look at the field management module, and then Sean has already kind of touched on the document management module as well, and just to see how all of these link in together and how you can connect into the documents based in your document management as well. So I'll first start looking at RFIs. So request for information, the contractor's on site. He needs to know more information about a particular thing. He's able to then create an RFI within here. Just create an RFI quite simply. He can set the status of that to whatever he wants, and then he can give it a title, you know, so it might be, you know, what door finish here. He can put in a more specific question, detailed question, is there a suggested answer, and then he can also attach any sort of photographs or drawing information as well. But the handy thing about this, and I find quite a beneficial kind of feature, is that when he goes to add document, he can pull up, and the reason, I'll show you the reason that is actually not coming up now is because I haven't enabled. Just going to go back into my settings, into my RFIs. So I need to set up myself as the creator here. So these are just the back-end settings where you can control all of those settings. So I just haven't added myself. And this allows you to create different workflows. So this is quite, you know, you can customize this to suit yourself. Usually you'll have the creator of an RFI, generally your subcontractor or your contractor, and then a manager that gets submitted to. This can be the main contractor, and then the reviewer of this information, which could be the architect. But you can also choose different people or companies that does get assigned to, and you can also change the workflows of that as well. You can add in an additional reviewer, and that goes through a whole review process there as well. So I'm just going to jump back into my project management, back into my RFIs. So again, just going to create RFI. And this is going to allow me then to access any sort of documents in here that are already residing. So I'll just show you one I've created already. So concrete specification needed here. I've created an RFI and I've linked this to a document here. So I've linked this into our document management module, and I've pinpointed on this document where the issue is on site. So this then signifies to anyone that this is being assigned to. They then open up this drawing, and then that RFI pops up with a little marker here on site, and they can see, okay, what the various different information to there, to the issue on that particular RFI, and that can be addressed then as well. And they can submit a response back to that RFI as well, and that gets sent back to whoever created as well, or it can get passed on to a reviewer as well. So that's looking at RFIs, and you can also set different due dates as well to that as well. So for a particular date, you can see, you can assign it to a particular person. If it's a week, 2 days, or 1 day, whatever, you can give them a particular due date to have the information back to you. And you can also assign a particular location to it as well if you've imported your locations into BIM 360 as well. So just looking at the submittal side of things, so you're able to create any sort of submittals on this, particularly from a technical point of view, and then you can filter any of these. So I suppose on a large project, you're going to have a whole list of different submittals within this, and you can control the process within that as well. So within a submittal package, you've got a number of different items. So you can submit single items to individuals and assign them to different people, or you can create a package, which is a collection of a whole list of items. So within here, you can have your specification sections as well that refer back to your contract documents or back to, you know, what your what was quoted for within the tender. You can select that in here as the contractor. If you want to put in a subsection as well, they can put in here, submit the ceiling tile manufacturer. If this has to get signed off for any particular reason, they want to put in the description as well, and then you can then assign that to a whole load of different reasons under there as well. So I'm just going to put that under samples. We want to submit a sample to them, and then we want to assign this to a particular contractor. So I'm just going to assign it to Joe Blogs here from Exciting Construction, and I'm going to give him a date of, say, 19th of March, give him a bit of time, and I'm just going to, I can then attach further information in here as well if I want. So I might want to attach, it could be a specification document in here, linking to the sample file. I can then create that as a submittal. That's just going to create that, and then I can see within here, okay, the ceiling tile manufacturer, this has been assigned to Joe Bloggs, so Joe Bloggs will have received an email on that. He can then review it, and then that information can then get further sent back as well. And you can also customize any of your specification sections in here as well. So within the back of the submittals feature, you can create any sort of specification sections in here relating back to the specification on the particular project as well. So on submittals, I'm just going to jump into the back end of submittals as well. So anytime you jump into project admin within BIM 360, you're able to look at the particular different settings in at the back, and not everybody has these settings. Only project administrators obviously have settings to these. So within project management, you've got the RFIs. I've already ran through the kind of different processes you can set up for your approval processes in that as well. You can also click on here if you want to see a more extended workflow of how the flow of information will work once an RFI is created as well. But then looking at the submittals as well, so you want to define who your submittal manager is, and in a lot of cases this is going to be your main contractor as well. So this gives that particular individual or company, depending how you want to define it. So you can select either an individual. Obviously it's better to define it by company. Obviously people leave certain projects, so you want to assign it to a particular project or a particular company working on that project. So I just want to assign anybody that's part of Exciting Construction, and they can be the submittal manager then within the submittal process as well. So I'm just going to jump into field management now, just to look at the site side of things and how you might create some sort of checklist as well. So looking at the BCAR point of view as well. So once you jump into field management, you've got your 4 tabs up here. You've got templates, which are all of your checklist template information. So you're able to create various checklists in here. So you can create from a blank template if you want, but you can also import a template, which is very handy as well. So if you have a template from Plastic Field, you can import that, but you can import from an XLS spreadsheet. And when you click next on this, it actually gives you an option to download a sample Excel spreadsheet. And once I open that, it just allows you to populate it with your custom information. And when I upload that particular file, so I can upload a particular locations template sample. Once I upload that, that's then going to create that as a checklist in here straight from any of your Excel information. So I'm just going to open up the Excel sheet here, so you can create your whole list of custom checklists or within your project or within your that you use generally within your firm, and you can reuse these on any projects. So once I upload this, it's going to create a checklist with all of these items in it here. And it's going to convert that into a BIM 360 checklist. Essentially, once I hit create checklist, then when I go into my checklist, it's going to create a checklist. I can retitle it however I want. In this instance, I've created a checklist called BCAR for Workstage 4 checklist. It can be any sort of custom, and I can see this has been assigned to myself, being either the designer or architect representative on this particular project. And I can see that, okay, this particular checklist has been started. So I actually started this checklist on my mobile phone, and so I logged into my BIM 360 app. I was able to then go through all of these checklist items on my iPhone app, and I can click review the certain questions, click yes or no, and then I can log an issue. So I was able to log an issue to say, no, this particular thing didn't comply for whatever reason, and then I took a photograph of that and I assigned it as well within there, and then this creates what's called an issue within the background as well against the checklist as well. So if things aren't conforming or complying, you're able to log that and capture that within your checklist information as well. So this particular checklist has a couple of pages within it, but you can complete quite a number of different checklist options in here as well, and you can do yes, no, pass, fail, or add in description options as well. So they're quite kind of customer bespoke checklists to suit your particular workflow for utilizing these on site. And then you can export this as a PDF report. And once I do that, it's just going to send me an email, take a second, and then within my report section in Insight, it's then going to generate a report of that particular checklist. So I'll go into that in a moment. So I'm just going to go back into my checklists. So I have a particular checklist that I've assigned here to the contractor as well. So for the handrail installation, for example, I want that particular contract to ensure that that handrail is installed to particular specifications that I have that I've specified specifically. So ensuring bolts and rivets are not allowed in the same connection, or from a structural point of view, depending on the type of equipment. But I was able to create all of these from my custom checklist templates as well. So looking at those checklists again, you can have a whole list of checklists here as well, and you can filter on all your different type of information. So what type of checklist? It might be a quality checklist, it might be a punch checklist, or a snagging checklist, as we call it over here in Ireland, or it could be a safety checklist as well, and commissioning checklist for handover and signing off, which Sean is going to cover a bit of that on his side of things as well. And you can filter any of that information as well on the particular type. So I only have quality checklists in here at the moment, so it's going to filter anything on that. And then you can search by status as well. So as a site manager, as the architect, you might want to see what checklists are outstanding, what haven't been completed. So in progress, not started, you can filter that. And I can see, okay, Joe Blogs has this one, he hasn't started, but I see maybe the handrail is installed. So maybe I can bring that up with him and to get to the bottom of it for any particular reason why that might not be completed. And if you import checklists or locations as well, you can bring them into your checklist. So back again into your project administration, you can upload any sort of, if it's room numbers or location data as well, that can all be exported from Revit as your room locations or various different location tagging information as well. And then again, filter this who it's assigned to, and if there's any signatures as well. On a mobile phone or mobile device, you might require a contractor to put in a signature onto the mobile app. Just obviously they can do that with a stylus pen or their finger as well, just to see that it has been signed off. So I suppose adding a bit more rigor to your checklist there as well, so being able to go back through that, especially if it's been signed off as well. And if there's any particular scheduled dates that you want to check, if there's a date or a deadline coming up tomorrow, you can see that you can see all of those dates there as well. So then within that first checklist I created issues against that, or somebody on site was filling out the checklist and they saw that something didn't comply. So it could be in the contractor in this point of view. He was completing that handrail checklist and he saw that something didn't comply. So he created it, but he then assigned it back to me, and he was able to assign that back to me and say, okay, what type of issue is this? And he was able to set in those details as well there. So issues can be created either on the mobile device through checklists, but they can also be created here as well, either by your site manager or architect or whoever has this particular access. But again, all of those issues are linked back to any particular drawings as well. They're able to access them as well and see within the 2D viewer or even within the 3D viewer where those issues might have occurred and for what reason. And it just allows you to investigate that a bit further. And then even going further into that, looking at your 2D model viewer, you can then create further RFIs and further issues within this as well, and you're able to create comments on that as well. So then just looking at the kind of the end point of view of field management, you're able to pull daily logs from this as well, or enter daily log information. So we actually don't have the location set up for this particular project, but if you have the location set up for this, it pulls in the local weather information, whether it's from Dublin Airport, Cork Airport, or whatever location you might be in, or local weather stations. It will pull in all of this weather information. And what this allows you to do is so I'm just going to put in Cork City here. This just allows you to track back for any particular reason. If you see that productivity was down on site for a particular reason, or if there was a health and safety issue on site, and if it was for whatever reason it was weather related, you can then go back through this information and you can then see was there a particular issue on site related to weather on that day. If certain guys weren't, or if your roofers weren't on site on a day of heavy weather, you're able to see that as well. And you can also log any sort of labor information within this as well. So again, looking at taking that information a bit further, looking at your project home screen and your Insight module as well. I'm just going to jump into Insight here as well. So this is just where you can pull any sort of reports for any type of those issues that have been created. So I should have some reports in here that I created already. So you've got a dashboard, that's fine, but you can export a lot of this information to PDF as well, and I'll show you that in a moment. So within here I've issue root causes that you can filter on as well, but you can also add what are called cards within here as well, and you can also add custom cards, so you might have a design issue trend. Depending what sort of information you're trying to filter in here, you're able to do that as well. You might have open RFIs and submittals as well. I can add that card to my dashboard as well, and that's going to give me further information. So okay, I've got 3 RFIs in this particular project, and 3 are due after 5 days, and then you can see the breakdown of this, 1 due in the next 5 days and 1 due after 5 days as well. And you can see any sort of quality performance information here as well by month, and you can go into a lot further detail within this as well. Looking at the safety point of view, if any sort of safety information has been set, I'm just going to click save because I've added a card to that. If any sort of safety information has been entered as well, so you might have particular construction issues on site, I can see how many issues have been assigned here, and I can see who it has been assigned to or assigned from as well. So exciting construction have observed here, and again you can add further dashboard information here as well. So I'm just going to put in, I want to add my issues here as well, any sort of safety issues onto this dashboard. And this is just going to bring up the project issues as well. So that gives me further information again within that safety dashboard as well of who they might be assigned to as well. So I'm just going to click save on that as well. And then looking a bit further onto project controls, it gives you just further information to be able to customize these dashboards to be able to suit your particular project, your particular size of project, or the person who might be viewing this. You might want to share this with the directors in the company, or with a different department in the company. You can customize the dashboards for them to be able to look at that as well. And then just looking at some of the reports that you're able to pull from this as well. Now I think I created one this morning. So any sort of safety reports or any of the checklist reports that I can export as a PDF are then retrieved in here. So I've got a checklist detail in here. I can then retrieve that within here, and I can view any of those reports as well. And I can filter those as well, and I can see who received that as well, and then I can download that or share that with a particular person as well, and it pulls it down as a PDF document. And within here I'll have a complete list of any sort of safety issues or any sort of checklist summary, what has been completed or what has not been completed as well. So as well as being able to view it in the BIM 360 dashboard, you can also download it as a PDF document as well. And then just before I hand over to Sean, I'm just going to jump into the project home screen just to show you that as well, and how that particular information displays within your project home as well. And this is where you can see and set your weather information as well. So you can see if the particular weather information, what it's like on that particular day. And again, looking at any sort of outstanding information here as well. And anything with a different color has a different status. So in progress is in an orange color, and gray is not being started yet. And again, just to recap that these can be accessed on your mobile device as well. So that's just BIM 360 Build. I'm just going to jump back into a couple of slides before I hand back over to Sean. So looking at something like recap, so at your construction stage, you can import, capture site information on site, either drone information or point cloud information. So this particular one that Sean sent on to me, so this was created from 36 images from a drone, I believe, and then within recap it was pieced together as a point cloud model. And then that can be brought into something like Revit. So this can be a construction progress model as well. That can be brought into Revit, and you can check it against your design model, against your as-built model as it's progressing on site as well. So just to kind of show you just a little bit of recap, then you're able to link in your scan model into your as construction model. You can then model that up as I showed within Revit if you want, and then you can go that step further, and then you can use something like Navisworks to run a clash detection from Recap either into Revit or directly into Navisworks, and then in Navisworks you're able to, you can see here in the green is your construction model, so you're directly from Revit, and you can see your point cloud scan of where things have actually been constructed, and you can run a clash in that. And then just to show you that, I have actually brought in a point cloud of a sample model here. And you can see they've completely constructed the building about a meter in the wrong location. So this here, obviously point cloud, you can make out quite clearly there, and you could run a clash test on this. And this is our Revit model brought straight in here. So you can see it's slightly askew. That's probably a coordinates issue, but you can do that in any sort of level of detail as well. If it's an internal room with layouts of rooms or internal partitions, bring in your point cloud, lay it over within Navisworks over your design model, and then even from that run a clash test if you want using the clash detective. Okay, thanks very much, Sean. I'll hand back over to you now.
Thanks very much, Jonathan. Thank you. So that was very good, Jonathan, on the BIM 360 build and the checklist and snagging with regards to on-site capture. Just one of the guys there had a question just before we progress on further about our checklist designed to be ongoing during construction or for snagging at the end of a project. So I just answered it there to say that they're built for like an as-seen capture moment at that time, but they can also be done at the end of a project. It's having the checklist templates available to you at that time in order to perform your check sheet. So it's more or less streamlining the data capture and checklist and quality on site. So if there's any more questions, we can just type them into the chat section and we can answer them at the end of the project, at the end of the webinar. So what I'm going to kind of go through now is the equipment mapping element of the BIM 360, and what this will be is to take, if you have a live model that you're working on through construction phase, that any time that someone inputs information on site using their tablet, it'll populate it back onto the Revit model. So what you're doing is you're meeting your contractual obligation in populating an asset-rich model, which means that when you're handing over your project, you click on the model, and what it'll do is it'll have all information pertaining to that piece of equipment, be it a pump, be it a piece of furniture, be it an actual room itself. So all it would be is that the operator, throughout the operational phase of the project, all they need to do is just click on that piece of kit and it will give them information on it. So what I do is I just start showing it here, is just drag it across here. So what it is I have a Revit model here, just a sample Revit model with all pumps and piping on it. So you can see here that it has captured some information from site. So even this assembly here does not have any information embedded on it. So what we do is, what that is performed is it's gone from, what you do is you push your model from glue, from Revit to glue, and that will populate it in here. So if I just go to my properties section, you see here that there's information here on that piece of kit. There's information here. So I'll just go element. Sorry, it's this piece of kit here. So you see here, it's all through equipment mapping back into field. So what I'll do is I'll just share my iPad here and show you how, when you transition from Revit onto field and you capture information, that it'll fall back onto the Revit model. So I just bring across my, so this is performed through the iPad app. Just expand this here. So I just open up the BIM 360 field app here. So all I do is I open up my model. So this is all offline. I can navigate through the model, and if I go to a particular piece of information here, I can do it that way, or what also I can do is if I'm walking the site and the project is barcoded, sorry, I just open it up here and I zoom in here. I click on the bottom left here and I click on barcode scanner and I scan a barcode. That will bring me to that piece of kit. So here I can start putting in the information, location, if it was inside in I'll just say the women's toilet. I can start putting in more information, be it tag number, if it was 345891. If there was purchase order information relating to it, warranty start date, so we say that it's on today, and warranty end date, we'll give it 2040. There's also an option on BIM 360 field that if I want to, for example, put a checklist against it, I can have information about that. If there's any issues relating to that pump itself, I can check that. There's also, if I want to see attachments of that pump, as in have specific information about it, I have the complete data sheet on that, which inside in that interface you can check for, I'll try to find speed, just to see if there's anything for speed. Yeah, and if you click on that, it highlights on the platform the text, so it'll search within the document for that item. I can also create a task on this, so this can be used for operational phase, that you can create a task that this pump needs to be rechecked in the next 6 months. One added value to this is that if I want to see exactly where that pump is in the model, you see the very top right hand side, you just click on show in model and it brings me straight to that pump. I can also walk around the model as well if I want to navigate, and if I want to see information about another pump, I can select that, click information, and this is where you start populating information on it. So I just to show this, I will put in my name here just to say Sean Asset One say. One. If I hit done, so once I come back then and I just click on the sync and I sync this, it's telling me that there's 2 pieces of equipment that are being updated because I've populated information on those pieces of equipment. So what that's going to do now is it will populate it back into Glue, and so if I'm working on my Revit model, this should work. This will work here now. So it was that pump that I worked on, so I'll just click on it here first. There's very little, see it's asset information 1 is blank, there's nothing there. So with the Glue equipment properties tab here, if I click on equipment properties, sorry, it's have to open up on a different page here. I click on I want to get information from this model, go get properties, hit OK. If I click on this item again, it's saying here that Sean Asset 1 has been populated. So this is an example of operatives on site who are walking around having the model accessible to them and populating information about that model, and they don't know that in the background they're actually updating the Revit model as it's progressing. So it's the same then with other pieces of equipment here. You just click on them and you have all the information. So it's ways of streamlining and pushing stuff back. We can, if someone is interested in a demo on this, it's mostly just using Revit, Glue, and BIM 360, and you can. It's more or less streamlining and capturing your data on site. So to manage that, we can work on then the COBie. So that can be worked with COBie. So there's no COBie information on this model as of yet. So it's just it's adding extensions onto your Revit. So there's a COBie extension here, and I have a classification. So if I want to set up COBie on a project, I just click on contacts. I can put in my email address, the whole lot, finish that, and then if I want to go through settings on this, so I just go by default, say that we're in the United Kingdom settings, and just go through these. These can all be customizable. It's all based on what your deliverables are on a project. Do you need, so just go select all. So I'm going to put COBie information onto all these. well, I'm not going to put COBie information, I'm going to put COBie parameters onto them. So I'll just go all here and just, I'll finish this here. Yes. And just finish here. And what that'll do now is it's starting to populate COBie on all the items here. Alright, so these are all are going to be all the COBie schedules that are on the model. So I go to my schedules tab here. I have all these blank schedules that are on the model. So all you need to do is you select an item, and that just needs to be COBie enabled, and you start populating information on that. So I just I can't zoom in there yet. So it's just more adding parameters to a file. It's the exact same thing. I don't know if you have been requested with the likes of Uniclass. So this is another one. So because I've set the UK in my COBie extension, is saying I'm using the default UK database. Click finish. That's just saying that there's an update available. Sorry, just close that. So on particular tenders, the client will ask for a Uniclass and COBie parameters. So I just go edit type on that. And you can see here all the classifications. So you just start populating information about that, and that will populate into schedules. This can also be done with regards, once you have the parameters in place and you share that model to field, it's easier for someone on site to be populating all the COBie information, be it the warranty period, the type make, where the particular piece of kit is, and that'll push it back to Revit, and all you do is just export out through the COBie extension here. You export out the schedule, and that's meeting your requirements as part of a project. So we can delve further into this. It's a lot easier to explain through a separate webinar or a face-to-face discussion if needs be. So that's just ways to show how BIM 360 can be used it can be used for data capture, and also can be used for FM purposes. So at the end of a project, all it is that the FM operatives just there's barcodes around the site. They go around and they just start scanning the item, and it brings them to the platform. There's also ways that you can actually go to your library on the platform. So if you want to have any particular pieces of information, so I just go to construction, client, I can actually I can view drone footage of the area. So at least you have information on your platform if you want to, and you can start marking those up as well if you want to mark them up. So just having the right information available to you whenever you need it. So to kind of finish off on the whole series there, I'll just go onto my slide. Pull that out of the way. Sorry. First of all, this is just going through the footage there from Jonathan. So what we do is just going to recap on what we discussed, and Jonathan can come on board here as well, and we can discuss what we have talked about through the course of the three webinar series. So what we did for people who this is mostly for people who didn't attend the previous two webinars. What is we started off kind of going from a Revit design concept, a format design concept, pushing that into Revit, and then implementing a few Dynamo scripts where we could streamline levels, floor plans, the whole lot. And then we brought that concept into InfraWorks, and then back into that was shared with Revit. And then what we use BIM 360 docs then to share and more or less release the information into the client for approval and review. Is there any more else we can discuss on that there, Jonathan, just before we move on to the webinar 2?
No, just and yeah, that the recording is available as well. It's good to look back at some of the other workflows we got in there. But yeah, we try to target it at, you know, at the early stage of a project, and just seeing the different workflows, particularly between making that transition from one piece of software to another piece of software, that you are able to do that. They're not just independent of each other as well. So particularly Forma to Revit, and as Sean mentioned, the rest as well. Looking at all those, and then finally pushing all of that data and looking at the BIM 360 integration of that, and I suppose looking at where we got to today with BIM 360 and all the information that we were able to pull from that early stage and reuse it at this final stage as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah. And then say for webinar 2 then we more or less focused on the detailed design stage, where we were it's more a collaborations section, where we showed the clash detection in Navisworks. We also showed model coordination on the BIM 360 side of things. We then focused on Revit and a bit more Dynamo scripting for moving pieces of ductwork and other scripts. And then we pushed the model then into a Revit Live scene, where you can start showcasing VR solutions then for the client. So the client is fully engaged from concept all the way through to handover. So this is more or less giving them an overview as to what the project is at that stage. And then we focused on BIM 360 design, which showed more or less where multiple individuals can work on the one model in the cloud at that one time. So there's no data being lost. There's no one working isolated on their own machine. And then what we focused on then was BIM 360 docs, where we started submitting documents for review and started to review the drawings that were published within the docs environment. So there's no external software or solutions being used. This is solely on the BIM 360 docs. There's nothing else we can focus on that there, Jonathan, is there?
No, I think you've covered everything there, Sean.
Yeah. And just more or less on today, we focused on BIM 360 Docs as the platform. So to kind of, what we say is that BIM 360 Docs is the foundation block for all the other modules. So build is on Docs, design is on Docs, BIM 360 model coordination, your field management, project management, they're all built on the Docs environment. And then we focused on Recap Pro, and we showed Navisworks being able to provide a 100% accurate model at the end of a project. Like in some cases, the client could say, I want to see a report proving that your model is a 100% graphical representation of what's built on site. That's just more or less providing a Navisworks report where you have ran a clash detection between your final point cloud scan and your final asset model. And then you start reviewing the COBie information then to show that the actual items have information embedded in them. Is there anything else that, Jonathan, we can add from today's webinar?
No, I think I'm happy enough. Yeah, just to say that, yeah, obviously we've shown a lot of products, and you know it's a lot for people to take in. But feel free to contact either of us, you know, and we're happy to run through anything in more detail whatsoever, either individually or for your company or whatever way it suits you guys. And yeah, we've shown different pieces of software at different stages. So you know, Navisworks isn't only relevant at pre-construction stage. You can also use it, as we showed, you know, at the clash detection stage with your point cloud or you know, scan model as well. Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate, throughout the course of these 3 webinars, we've only shown what's highlighted in grey that's available on the AEC collection. So it's just to show you the vast amount of software that's available in the AEC collection. Like, we can focus on other elements if it's requested, and to show you the capabilities of what's available. So it's just more to show, even though for the course of the 3 webinars we've only focused on those elements, and just to make it aware that the AutoCAD, even though we didn't show it on the 3 webinars, is available in the AEC collection. We also kind of worked on the BIM 360 platform, focusing on the modules.
So on the BIM 360, we've just explained docs, design, glue, build and field. There's other modules that can be requested if possible. Like there's ops, plan, point layout, and there's because it's a cloud-based solution, it's constantly evolving, and there's more rollouts within a fortnightly basis. Yep, and say more or less, just of course explain what Procad and working along with Jonathan, what we do is we have our own training center. If people want to get more up to speed regards Revit, Autodesk, AutoCAD, Inventor, any other applications. If companies want to avail of any of the Enterprise Ireland, we're on the Enterprise Ireland list of approved assessors and councils. And then we just have in-house experience on both construction and manufacturing, where we can tailor workflows and give insight into the latest tech that's available. And kind of finish it off, we just like to thank Connacht Construction, who kind of provided us with the PDF drawings for the Kilmarnock job and gave us information. We'd also like to thank Helium Partners for their actual design on the project, and also like to thank Jack O'Shea Photography, who provided me with the drone photography on the platform. And just more or less to show the dashboards. So on the project home on Docs, you have access to your models. This is, Jonathan didn't focus really on, there's external cards that can be added to this. So if I go to the card library, sorry, just to finish it off, you have, if you have different solutions, like if you have your Power BI or all these external Hollow Builder, you can add them as cards. And so instead of having to go onto the platform, I'll just cancel this here. You can, once you log on to the interface, you can view your models. So this is just to show the scan to see progress of a particular project. I can zoom in and I can navigate around a scan model just to see what the course of the construction is. And as Jonathan said, you can compare that against your planned model in Navisworks as well. So I'd just like to thank you all for coming, and hopefully I have a few more webinars. Maybe we'll try and keep them to 15 minutes, but have them more in depth, focusing on the likes of project management, the likes of field management. It's whatever you request us to explain. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and we'd love to answer them.